Hi, and welcome to ABS World. My name is Samuel, as you know. Today we are reacting on a clueless Europeans guide to the NFL 2022-2023 season. This video was done by BM Onus on YouTube. Check his page out. He explains the game in its simplest term. And being a new person, being from Ghana, where American football is not so huge here, I think I need his video to be able to learn more about it, because it's a game I like, and there are lots of Ghanaians in the NFL as well and in the college game, so I want to follow them on it. If you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section below. We'll do well to respond to it for you. We'll always respond to our subscribers as well. Please don't forget to subscribe. Yes, and then don't forget to like as well. Okay, so please let's check the reaction out and see what BM Onus has in store for us. Let's go.
Oh, hello there, my fellow American, and perhaps non-American. It's that time of year where sport takes over a day of the week in America. Ah, yes. The NFL is back, baby. Relationships, and it's now sending far more people into crippling gambling addiction. And you know what? It's been far too long. Come on here, you old friend, and ruin my life. It's already fucked up anyway. So offer me some of that sweet, sweet distraction. I'll be honest, my quality of life probably increases by at least 37% when football is back. And that is a scientific fact. Don't look it up. And if you aren't into the NFL, well, I did a quickie guide on how to get into it last year, and link to that video up in the eye thingy, but bro, you missed out, because we thought nothing would top the insanity of 2022, but 2021 outdid itself. Because let me give you a quickie little recap of what happened in the NFL last year.
Go time wizard!
Let's go ahead and rewind it all the way back to the draft. And it was one of the more memorable drafts of the last decade, because this was supposed to be a generational quarterback class. There were 5 quarterbacks in this class that were seen as potential franchise savers. And they were all just okay, if I'm gonna be honest. But it was headlined by one Trevor Lawrence. And this man was the most hyped prospect since Peyton Manning. But the only issue is he went to the Jags, and they hired Urban Meyer to pair with them. And all he did was have one of the most disastrous rookie head coaching campaigns of all time, highlighted by video of him canoodling at a bar that he owns with a young blonde lady that was not his wife. And the cherry on top, there's a mural at his bar of him caressing his wife, looking down on everyone. So maybe he felt like she was giving his blessing of some sort. And what's great about all this and all that chaos was he wasn't even the first head coach that was fired. Now, speaking of other controversy, Deshaun Watson apparently was trying to get a handy from every masseuse in Texas. 24 individual cases, bro. 24. Now, obviously, this dude's a monster. What strikes me as even weirder is this man was willing to risk everything for hand jobs. Hand jobs aren't even that good. You know, that's fucking weird. That is fucking weird. And even with all the sexual assault cases surrounding him, what happened to him? Oh, Cleveland went ahead and signed him to the biggest guaranteed contract in NFL history. Way to go, Cleveland. Stay classy. And then we had Aaron Rodgers in supposedly his last dance in Green Bay. The relationship with the franchise seemed all but fractured when he was going to put it together with his homie Davante Adams one last time. And the season was the stuff of fairy tales. The connection between him and Davante Adams was beyond brotherhood.
I think I watched this thing.
And it all ended horribly in a playoff game where the offense fell apart, and they still could have won it if not for a fluke block punt. And then plot twist happened. Aaron Rodgers took a bunch of ayahuasca and had a change of heart. He decided to re-sign with Green Bay, and then a month later his homie Davante Adams winded up leaving town. Oh, and the team that Davante Adams left Green Bay for, the Oakland Raiders, well, they had themselves a season 2. They actually started as one of the hottest teams in football. They were basically winning everything. It was looking kind of peachy in Vegas, until their $100 million head coach got his old racist, misogynist, and homophobic emails leaked and got his ass fired. $100 million down the drain. And that arguably wasn't even the most horrific thing the franchise was involved with this year. Because let me remind you, their first round wide receiver from a year ago, Henry Ruggs, drove over 100 miles per hour into a lady, blowing her up, killing her, and being arrested for vehicular manslaughter. And despite all this chaos, the Raiders actually made the playoffs. Like, if you're another franchise that got beat out by the Raiders, like, what are you doing? You gotta fire everybody else, bro. Clean house. And then, of course, the continuing saga of Antonio Brown losing his mind. But this dude took it to new levels. He lost his mind mid-game. He got into an argument with some coach, stripped down, went completely topless, threw his shit into the crowd, and waved deuces as he ran to the back of his own end zone, probably never to be seen again in the NFL. This will be his lasting image for most of us. What a weirdo. Also, it was like mid-game versus the Jets. Why are you arguing playing the Jets? But you know, crazy gonna crazy. And then perhaps the biggest story of the year was young Joe Burrow coming back from a catastrophic knee injury. Look at this shit. His knee was folded in like a chair. But somehow, he came back a year later and was transformed, stronger, more accurate. And then he donned a fur coat and caught absolute fire near the end of the season, going on the playoff run of dreams. Assisted by his old college teammate and Rookie of the Year, Jamar Chase, this young Tiger King led his Cincinnati Bengals from obscurity to the fucking Super Bowl. And then there were the Rams, who pushed all their chips in. And I mean, literally they spent every penny they had, every draft pick that they could possibly accrue, and just generated a super team. Well, it was mostly a super team. There's a lot of stars and scrubs. And it actually worked. They won the Super Bowl this year. Sean McVay and Aaron Donald finally got their ring. But that was all last year. And now we're in September, and we all go again. Let's go ahead. Let's hop into it right now to a Clueless American's Guide to the 2022-2023 NFL season. So, per usual, let me be your guide on telling you which teams you should be watching and possibly bandwagoning in this upcoming season. And you know who are the best at picking out who to bandwagon truly in America? Yeah, that's right, baby. Vegas. A quick reminder that last year, Vegas predicted as their top 5 best odds to win the Super Bowl. Number 1, it was the Bucks. 2, Kansas City. 3, Buffalo Bills. 4, San Francisco 49ers. And 5, the Baltimore Ravens. And the 2 teams that ended up in the Super Bowl were the LA Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals. So yeah, it's a league of chaos. But 4 of those 5 teams actually had fantastic seasons. So without further ado, let's go ahead and show you what Vegas thinks are the top 8 teams this year that they think will be challenging for a Super Bowl ring. And coming in at number 8, the Denver Broncos. And they're at number 8 for a very simple reason. They went from Drew Lock, who you could define as Mr. Limited, to somehow acquiring one of the best quarterbacks in the league, Russell Wilson, aka
Mr. Unlimited.
I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
And don't let his down season from last year fool you. That finger injury really hampered him throughout the season, and he came back way too quickly. But in Denver, you know this man is gonna fucking cook. He has legit weapons, Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, and for the first time in his career, an actual offensive line. And with a decent defense behind him, and that mile-high advantage of playing in Denver, I think Russell Wilson could easily be a dark horse for MVP this season. If you're still doing your fantasy drafts, go ahead and get him, man. He's gonna be a steal. The only issue that I really see with the Broncos is that they play in the group of death of the NFL, the AFC West. You got KC and Mahomes, Chargers and Herbert, and then you got the Raiders, which is fine. They're not that good. But the other two are going to be a pain in the ass. And as good as Russell Wilson is, I just don't know if he's quite at the caliber of a Mahomes or even a Justin Herbert, because those two are truly, truly special. But I'm going to love the fireworks. Now, with the 7th best odds to win the Super Bowl this year are my beloved hometown San Francisco 49ers. And they were a dropped interception away from making the Super Bowl this year. And yes, there was a little bit of turmoil in the offseason. Deebo Samuel looked like he was going to force his way out of town, but they somehow rebuilt that Burt Bridge, kept most of their pieces together, and would probably be higher on this list if not for the fact that despite making the NFC Championship game 2 of the last 3 seasons, they are moving on from their quarterback, Jimmy GQ. And that is because a season ago, they traded away 3 first-round draft picks to bring Trey Lance to the Bay Area. And the problem with him is even as talented as this young man is, he's barely played football in 2 years. And in the small sample size of games he played last year, it was pretty mixed results, I'm not gonna lie. And this team, like most teams in the NFL, are gonna go the way their quarterback goes. And we don't know how it's gonna turn out. He could be the next Josh Allen or the next Carson Wentz. He's played 2 games. But what I do know is the rest of this team is fucking loaded. Nick Bosa is one of the best pass rushers in the league. He's basically unblockable. Deebo Samuel became Deebo from Friday last season, and Trent Williams might be the best overall player in the NFL period. So that's the thing. Trey Lance might not even need to be that good for them to actually make another NFC championship. And then you have their evil genius at head coach, Kyle Shanahan. This dude is considered one of the greatest offensive minds in the game today. Can you imagine him using Trey Lance, what could possibly be a triple option, with Deebo Samuel running the jet sweep, Elijah Mitchell's 4-3 ass coming right downhill. And if Trey pulls it from the mesh point, you got all-pro George Kittle and the ascending Brandon Ayuk running down the field. And even if all else fails, Trey can also run for a first down. The 49ers offense will probably be the biggest headache for defense coordinators this season, because we might see shit we've just never seen before in the NFL. But if I put my homer boner down, far more likely, Trey Lance is going to have a lot of rookie moments. He's going to have some incredible highlights, don't get me wrong, but there's going to definitely be some growing pains here. I can see them winning anywhere from 8 to 11 games. It's going to depend on how often Trey Lance turns over the ball. But if he can keep the interceptions low, this defense is elite enough that probably carry him to another NFC Championship again. Maybe even a Super Bowl. Now, coming in at number 6 are the LA Chargers. And I have a soft spot for them because this offseason, they did an anime intro for like no reason. I don't know why they did this, but it's kind of amazing. So if you're an anime fan and you're new to the NFL, I guess it's the team to bandwagon on. And they seem perpetually to be the dark horse team to win the Super Bowl every year, and then just for whatever reason, they fuck it up. But on paper, they might be the most stacked team in the NFL. Derwin James is arguably the best safety. He just got paid. Justin Herbert, who had one of the greatest rookie seasons, followed it up with an even more spectacular sophomore season. Not even a whiff of a sophomore slump. And Austin Eckler made everyone who took him in fantasy quite happy last year. From top to bottom, everyone on this roster seems like a superstar, and they somehow did not even make the playoffs last year. So what did they do? They addressed their biggest need. They had to find someone to pair up with All-Pro Joey Bosa, and what did they do? They got Khalil Mack, a top 5 defensive player of this past generation. And then they went out and grabbed arguably the best defensive back in this free agency by picking up the sticky-fingered J.C. Jackson. But their issue is the same as I said with Denver. They play in the group of death, the AFC West. And then the fact that the Chargers always look like a beast on paper every single season, and it either be injury or a kicker fucking it up, they just always never work out. But hey, it's a new season. The Chiefs are weakened a little bit, and with Herbert in the ascendancy, you never know. But knowing the Chargers, I think they'll make the playoffs this year, and then some type of special teams fiasco will fuck them up.
Oh, he missed! He missed! He missed!
Coming in at number 5 are the defending Super Bowl champions, the Los Angeles Rams. Now you might be asking yourself, how could the defending Super Bowl champs be this low? Yes, they've lost the likes of Robert Woods, OBJ, and Von Miller, but that should be canceled out by bringing the likes of Bobby Wagner and Allen Robinson. Cooper Kupp had one of the greatest seasons ever for a wide receiver, thanks to being butt buddies with Matthew Stafford during the offseason. And Aaron Donald still remains arguably the best defensive player in the league. And even with trading away every single draft pick that they could possibly find, this roster is still loaded to the brim with stars and some scrubs. But mostly stars. When you have arguably the best wide receiver in the game, the best defensive lineman in the game, and the best corner in the game, that top-heavy talent basically carried them to a Super Bowl win last year. And they've retained all those players, so they'll be in contention again this year. But there's a couple of weird fishy things going on. Like for one, there were all these rumors about Sean McVay and Aaron Donald retiring right after the Super Bowl win. And that's never good juju, man. Yeah, maybe some other people convinced them to come back and make one last run. But in their heart of hearts, they're not going to have the same dog in them as they did last year. They're not going to be as hungry. And in the NFL, where the margins are that razor thin, I just don't know, man. Then you have Matthew Stafford, who has a lingering elbow issue. And if you guys watched the playoffs last year, his arm did not seem right. And that's why I think it's pretty fair to put them at number 5. Now, my prediction is they're going to be very dangerous. They're going to win about 11 games, but they're going to get knocked out of the playoffs. And coming in at number 4, Vegas has the Green Bay Packers. And I don't understand this one. Yes, they are absolutely loaded on defense, maybe the best secondary in the league. And yes, Aaron Rodgers is the reigning MVP 2 years running. But he has literally no one to throw to. He didn't lose just one of the best wide receivers in the league. He basically lost all of his receivers. They downgraded to just a bunch of rookies. And one of them is already injured. And I'm not saying rookies can't be good. In fact, in the past 2 seasons, we've seen the likes of Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson take the league by storm as rookies. But I don't see either one of those guys on this roster. And this defense and Aaron Rodgers is elite enough to carry them to the playoffs. But when you're in those big moments, when you're down by 14 with only a quarter left, are you really going to bet on rookie wide receivers helping you out? It just seems like a recipe for disaster. And no matter how much ayahuasca you smoke, you can't convince me otherwise. They lost last year because they scored 10 points in their playoff loss. And that was with Devontae Adams, playing at home, in the snow, against a team that serves sushi in their stadium. Unless they make a trade for a wide receiver, or maybe they pick up OBJ off the scrap heap, I do not see it with this team. Plus, they're going to have a soft schedule, okay? Their vision is pretty bad, and that's going to go ahead and inflate the hopes of a lot of Chiefs heads. But when it comes to playoffs, that offense and the rookie wide receivers are going to let them down. Maybe one win in the playoffs, if they're lucky. Coming in at number 3 are the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, a year ago, I was touting KC as pretty much a perpetual dynasty for many years to come. And my opinion on that probably wouldn't have changed all that much until this offseason, when Tyreek Hill dropped a nuclear bomb on the team when he demanded a trade out of town. And there has to be some bad blood here, because Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes are a match made in heaven. Mahomes could buy time for days and had the arm to hit Tyreek Hill at any part of the field. And no matter how far Mahomes could fling it, Tyreek was fast enough to get under that bitch. But apparently, Tyreek did not feel the same way about this partnership, because this past offseason, he opted to take his talents to South Beach, trading the bazooka-armed Mahomes for the noodle-armed Tua. Bold strategy, Cotton. See how it works out for him. You add on top of that Patrick Mahomes' family seems to be on a mission to destroy his career, and we went from looking at a player that could possibly rival Brady one day to now a guy who has to answer questions about his shithead brother doing TikTok dances. And they had some big losses this year, man. Losing Tyreek Hill, obviously, going to be a huge blow to that offense. He was just such a dynamic factor that truly made that offense special. And then you go over to the defensive side, and you lose both Chardavius Ward and Tyrann Mathieu. I just don't know, man. Tyrann Mathieu was the heart and soul of that D. Now, don't get me wrong. It's still Andy Reid. It's still Patrick Mahomes. You could basically pencil them in for 11 wins. But I think the rest of the league are going to view the Chiefs very differently. They aren't the big bad boogeyman of the AFC anymore. In the immortal words of Arnold and Predator, if it bleeds, we can kill it. And with the lack of elite options at wide receiver and running back, there's only so much Travis Kelce can do. And I think come playoff time, teams are going to exploit that. They'll probably double or triple up Kelce and make that mediocre wide receiving core beat them. If Tyreek Hill stayed, they're an auto pencil in for the AFC Championship game, minimum. But now, this is my bold prediction. I don't even know if they make that. And alright, coming in at number 2 are the Tampa Bay Bucks. And they're sitting at number 2 because they got the GOAT, the Eternal One, the Infinity Stone, Tom Brady. Now, you do go ahead and minus the crazy Antonio Brown, but you go ahead and add a Julio Jones, so arguably an upgrade. Now, the big downfall of this team last year was pretty much injuries and drama. But with the bad blood between Bruce Arians and Tom Brady kind of calmed down, and Bruce Arians went ahead and stepped down to front office role, if everybody got healthy, it seemed like, yeah, you could pencil them in for at least another NFC Championship game. But it's just been a strange offseason, okay? Tom Brady went from retired, then unretired, then leaving the team in the middle of training camp for personal reasons, and he still isn't back yet. Something just smells a little fishy here. That said, it's Tom Brady. The man would sacrifice his firstborn and Gisele's left tit if it meant getting another ring for his legacy. And I would bet both of my nutsack that come Sunday of the season opener, he'll be playing. And yes, both of my nutsacks. I didn't stutter. The defense is loaded, the offense is retooled, and if they can stay healthy, maybe Tom Brady rides off into the sunset with his 8th Super Bowl ring. Stranger things have happened. Coming in at number 1 are the Buffalo Bills. And by God, the Bills versus the Chiefs game last year in the playoffs was probably the best playoff game in the past 20 years. And undoubtedly the greatest offensive shootout I've ever witnessed in a playoff game. They were 13 seconds away from Super Bowl, and probably the only reason why they didn't make it was they lost the coin toss in overtime. Josh Allen has become a full Josh Scally. We always knew he was a big motherfucker who could truck linebackers, but his one liability, turning the ball over, he actually reined that in this last year and had a transcendent season, putting him in the MVP conversation. He went toe for toe with Mahomes, man. You couldn't tell me in that game that one quarterback was better than the other. And with all the accolades and hoopla going around, you'd think that he might go a little bit soft? Nah. Here he is starting fights in training camp with nose tackles. This dude doesn't give a fuck. Their secondary should still be the best in the league, and with Josh Allen's weapons maturing, Bills Mafia might be celebrating their first Super Bowl win in infinity, and I cannot wait for them to destroy table after a Costco table this year. But the only thing that I don't like about them is that it just feels weird that the Buffalo Bills are a front runner. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Bills seem to work better when they're the underdog. That's just more the Buffalo mentality. And just as I'm about to finish up this video, a report just came out that the Bills rookie punter, the man known as Punt God, Matt Araiza, whatever this scumbag's name is, he was accused of gang raping a 17-year-old. So yeah, that's the thing. I'm sure the NFL must be real happy they have to deal with this headline after all the Deshaun Watson news. Fantastic. Season hasn't even started yet. And bro, if you listen to the accusations, it's disgusting. He admitted to knowing the girl was 17, a high school senior, and then after the ordeal, when she called him, he told her that she should go get tested for STDs. Jesus Christ. But yeah, Buffalo Bills. That's who Vegas thinks are the number 1 odds to win the Super Bowl this year. Right, that's what Vegas thinks. But what about the sleepers? Who are the trendy picks that might be a little bit off the scale this year? And honestly, my first sleeper shouldn't be a sleeper. I don't even know how they didn't make the top 8. Because I'm going to talk about the Cats, who just made the Super Bowl. Cincinnati Bengals. I know that the Super Bowl hangover is a thing, but if you just look at the facts, Joe Burrow outdueled Mahomes in Kansas City to make it to the Super Bowl, despite having a wet tissue paper for an offensive line last year. So what did they do this offseason? They made massive upgrades in that area. If that O-line can just be league average, it's terrifying to think how much more explosive this offense could be. And then you get another year of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase leveling up. Joe Mixon behind a competent line for the first time in his career. And then you factor in that Joe Burrow is going to be yet another year removed from a knee injury. It usually takes about 2 years for athletes to get back to full health, so we might actually see more of that elusiveness that was his calling card in college. I don't know what Vegas isn't seeing here. What's that love? My only main concern is that with these young bees that tend to take the league by storm, once the NFL kind of gets tape on you, defensive coordinators tend to catch up quick. Now don't get me wrong, they're not going to completely shut down Burrow, but they're going to figure ways to slow him down. They're going to make things uncomfortable for the young Tiger King. So the big question is, will he be able to counter the counter punches that the league throws at him? But might I remind you, Justin Herbert did not even miss a beat in his sophomore season. And my gut tells me Joe Burrow is built from the same kind of different. And for my other trendy sleeper pick are the Baltimore Ravens. And this one is easy because they were utterly decimated by injuries last year. They lost both of their starting running backs before the season even started. And despite all that, they were number one in their division for over half the year. It wasn't until Lamar Jackson went down. And yeah, you know, there aren't too many teams that can survive without their franchise quarterback. So once the former MVP went down, then yeah, the team fell off a cliff. But injuries aren't really predictable. And the law of regression says that they simply cannot be as cursed as they were last year. So if they get healthy, they're probably going to be the trendiest pick to go from worst to first in their division. Now, they do play in division with the Bengals. So for that scenario to happen, yeah, the Bengals are probably going to have a Super Bowl hangover. But with the expanded wild card, I can easily see the Bengals and the Ravens both getting in the playoffs this year. They're always well coached. They're probably going to get back to the ground and pound ways, which in turn is going to help out the defense. They're going to be more rested. This secondary could be one of the better ones in the league. And of course, they made out like bandits in the draft, because that's what the Ravens always do in the draft. And now in preseason, that rookie tight end they took lightly, this man is looking like a steal. And I know they already have an all-pro in Mark Andrews, but this young kid is going to allow them to play out of 2 tight end sets, which is basically going to be a perfect complement for an offense designed around Lamar Jackson. It's going to be one of the more unique offenses in the NFL this year. The Ravens are going to be a problem. And with the Steelers and the Browns playing bums at quarterbacks for most of the season, I would definitely be looking for the Ravens and the Bengals to be battling it out this year to see who is the true King of the North. And as I'm going to go ahead and bring this video to a close, I'm going to give you my Super Bowl prediction for this year. And I'm going to keep it simple, man. I think the Bengals kick the Super Bowl slump, they get back to the big dance this year, and fall just short once again as the eternal Tom Brady conjures up one final run, gets his 8th ring, and sits down like Thanos at the end of Infinity War, cementing himself as not just the greatest footballer of all time, but possibly the greatest sports athlete of all time. And that's where I'm going to leave off this preview for now. I think like last year, I'm going to go ahead and check in after the first 4 games of the season, give you an update on who are the early favorites, the big surprises of the season so far. And because there's so much parity and change in the league, I think I'm going to wait till then to tell you who truly you should be bandwagoning in the season. But in the meantime, sit back, relax, and enjoy the chaos that is the NFL season. Can't wait for it to start, baby. Oh, hello there. I just want to say thanks for watching. If you did enjoy, go ahead, smush your nipple into the like button.
As knowledgeable, I just want to know which 2 teams you think will make it to the Super Bowl. Please put it in the comment section. I'll respond to it personally. But in my opinion, I feel either the Bills or either the Bills or Kansas City from the AFC, and then the Cowboys or the Bucks in the NFC. Those are the teams I think so. So once again, thank you very much for watching my video. Please don't forget to subscribe and and like the video, and then also please don't forget to leave a comment. Until next time, thank you very much. This is ABS World. We out.